people often say, we've got five senses. We've got hearing, smelling, seeing, touching. But what about your intuition? Because it's a sense, and it's a sense that you should be taking advantage of. And it's a sense that's really powerful. Like, you think about how powerful it is to touch something and feel love and joy, or to hear something, hear music that sets your heart on fire. Like, it's such a powerful moment. Using your intuition is exactly the same. It's so powerful. And when you can actually trust yourself to explore it and start working on it, a whole new world opens up. And everything you thought was impossible becomes possible.
Do you want to wake up feeling like you are stepping into who you are meant to be, into the best possible version of you? What if I told you that the key to your best life, health, and happiness are all around you? You just have to find what works for you. I'm Hope Pedraza, and I believe that there isn't just one way to live a healthy and meaningful life, and that all you need is a little inspiration to make changes that last from the inside out. Each week, I'll be sharing tangible tips and inspirational interviews to help you on your journey. These are the steps to take to improve your life and live with purpose. This is Hopeful and Wholesome. Hey y'all, welcome back to the show. Today I have on the show Elle Embers, and Elle is a spiritual practitioner. She's certified in BHQ, past life regression, which we'll talk about, cosmic channeling. She's an energetic coach, and she is the host of the podcast Cosmic Curiosities, which you can go find my interview with her on her podcast. And I am pulling back all the curtains on all things woo on this one. And if you are not into the woo, I ask that you enter this conversation with an open mind and just allow yourself, maybe if you're not into everything we're talking about, or you don't believe in everything we're talking about, maybe you can just have a few perspective shifts of things that maybe you wouldn't have, thought about before, because we are going deep into the woo. And Elle is a medium. And I am so fascinated by this. Like, I am a firm believer in spiritual gifts, and everybody has their own spiritual gifts to offer the world. And Elle's gift is mediumship. And so she became aware of her abilities at a young age and kind of spent a lot of her life fighting this and not really truly embracing this. And so we talk about that and how she really was able to come into her own and accepting her gifts and her intuitive abilities, and how she's using that, and what past life regression is, and what all of this BHQ and all these channeling things is that she works with. I'm so fascinated by this interview. And again, I have to believe in everything we're talking about, but I ask that you enter the conversation with an open mind. And maybe you can just turn a little bit up on the woo scale and just open your mind and learn something new. I'm really excited about this conversation and can't wait to jump in. So let's get in. All right, y'all, let's jump in here. I'm here with Elle, and I'm so excited for this conversation because I'm just so fascinated by all of it. She is a spiritual practitioner, and we were talking all things, really, I guess it's all things spirituality, but honing in on like spiritual gifts and intuition. And I'm so excited for this. So thanks so much for joining me today, Elle.
Thanks so much for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Me too. And Elle has gotten up early for us because it is tomorrow for her, because she is calling us from Oz. And I appreciate you getting up and doing this in the morning. So thank you for that too. Okay, I feel like for this one, I usually don't jump into like the personal story until later, but I feel like we have to jump into the personal story first because this is where it all starts. So can you just give us the rundown of kind of how you discovered this gift and how you were able to harness that?
Yeah, totally. So the earliest memory I think I have of having a spiritual experience, I think I was about 4. And I know most kids kind of go through this sense of having, invisible friends and feeling a little bit more connected. But this kind of carried on a lot through my childhood. So a lot of the time I was seeing things that weren't there. I was hearing things that weren't there. And it was kind of quite accepted in my household because I grew up in a Buddhist and Taoist household. So it wasn't like out of the ordinary. We weren't super Catholic or anything like that, where it was considered to be a really terrible thing.
Right.
Yeah. So it was okay. It was just don't tell people about it. They'll think you're crazy, right?
Yep.
Keep it on the DL.
Yep.
And I did that most of my life, just kind of meeting people and trying to suppress everything else that was coming up around them at the time. And when I was around 10, 11, 12, my mother got terminally ill. And when she passed, this got a lot harder to suppress because as you go through grief, you go through heightened senses of emotions, everything becomes a little bit more intense.
Yeah.
So I went from being able to suppress it and, push it aside to, oh my goodness, this is
happening.
Insane. Yeah. So everything got amplified to like 150 and it just got really overwhelming. So going into my teenage years, I did what most teenagers do. I went and partied and tried to numb it, thinking if I numb my senses, it'll go away.
Right.
It'll be fine. But what I actually did instead was put myself in really vulnerable and dangerous positions, physically as well as, I guess, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually. So I became almost like this beacon for anything to attach to and anything to interact with. And I didn't know how to control it because I had no one guiding me through it. So it was a lot. And I ended up having some really dark experiences through my teenage years and even early adult. But I heard about in movies and things like that because I didn't know much about Catholic or Christianity or anything like that. But I'm like, oh yeah, I've seen movies. Like when someone has like a spiritual issue, they go to a priest, right? Like they'll fix it.
Yep.
So that was my inkling. And unfortunately, that didn't help me in any way. But I did end up having a kind of extreme confrontation with an entity in a church bathroom. So
wow,
it got pretty intense.
No way.
I got to a point where I was living every day scared. I was getting up in the morning with cuts and bruises all over me. I was terrified to just exist.
Yeah.
And it was happening to people around me as well, like friends and family and things like that would spend time around me would end up being like physically attacked by something. So it started to become a real issue. And I got to the point where I was like, you know what? I'm done. Enough is enough. And I was just so angry and so frustrated that I ended up just, losing it at this entity in the bathroom. And something just came over me and I was like, okay, I need to stand my ground. Like I have control. I need to take control back. And I literally just told them to like get lost and was like, no, I am in control. This is my life.
Yes.
You're not welcome.
Right.
And they backed off. I spent the next few months kind of waiting for the other shoe to drop. I was like, oh, this is too good to be true. Like, surely they're going to come back.
Right.
But I got through it. Like, there wasn't much else going on. And I got to spend a few years there really living a normal kind of life. But after having kids and getting married, having kids definitely opened the doorway up again. Not in a bad way, but just being pregnant, I had really spiritual experiences. And I guess getting married and that, I was like, okay, maybe I want to work on myself and feel better and do what I need to do. So let's start unpacking this U-Haul full of trauma and get to the bottom of, who I really am. Because I didn't really know. I'd suppressed her for so long. I didn't recognize who was in the mirror.
Yeah.
So it all started this journey of kind of reconnecting to myself and rediscovering my gifts and learning to work with them instead of against them.
Right.
And it all kind of led me down this path. Yeah.
What a ride.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. It's crazy. So when you had the experience in the bathroom and like told this spirit to get lost. So was it then that you kind of did you kind of turn the switch off where you're like, I'm not going to go there? Or was it like, okay, can I use this in a better way? Like what happened after that experience when you were like, okay, I have control. Did you want to dive deeper into this gift that you knew you had, or did you want to turn it off?
I wanted to turn it off.
Yeah.
Straight away.
Yeah.
I'd had enough. And I just wanted to be normal, like quote unquote normal.
Right.
And be like everybody else and not feel, I guess, scared. I think it was from a huge place of fear.
Fear. Yeah, for sure. So when you decided to kind of hone in when you had kids or when you were pregnant, I guess you said this is when I wanted to hone in. So what did that look like for you where you're like, okay, I can like harness this gift and use it for good? Like, what did that look like in terms of kind of, because I know there's a huge intuitive piece here. So what did that look like for you and kind of tuning into your intuition and coming at it from that perspective rather than that fear perspective?
I think the big thing for me was I lost my mom so many years before falling pregnant. And I have 3 kids. So I went through that 3 times over. But losing my mom and then becoming a mom was a big emotional roller coaster. And so having those heightened emotions again, I think I was able to tap into that doorway without really realizing. And when I did realize was when I saw my mother and felt her and had her around and having this connection to her again. I was like, okay, this isn't all bad.
Right. Yeah. That's crazy. And so what was your step from there? Were you like thinking, okay, am I going to use this just within my own, life? Am I going to use this to help other people? Like kind of what was the path forward from there?
So it started out just being for me. It was like, I'm just going to do this for me. No one else has to know about it. They can think I'm crazy. It's fine. But we had a group of friends and one of our friends had a heart attack at a really young age. They were like 23, 25. Oh, wow. And our friend group was really going through the motions of trying to process what had happened.
Sure.
And a few of my friends in the group started turning towards spirituality. And, a few of them were like picking up on Taoist ideals and Buddhist ideals and different things about spirituality that they kind of came to me and were like, hey, does this line up with this? Like, you should know. And I was like, oh, okay.
They made you the expert.
In a way. And we ended up, collaborating our ideas and our experiences and what we were going through. And my best friend actually went and had a past life regression. And I was like, you had a what? What is that? And she explained it to me that, it was going through sort of a hypnosis process to unlock your memories in your subconscious mind that you've carried forward from previous incarnations. And being Buddhist and Taoist, I was like, okay, reincarnation, that's what we believe in.
Right.
Yeah. I was like, I never knew that was a thing. Like I never knew you could explore that and see where you've been or who you've been and what you've been through.
Yeah.
And she put me in touch with the practitioner that she worked with. And this practitioner and I just hit it off. We got along so well. And I was like, wow, like I really relate to this guy. He's amazing. And I went through the process, and going through the process was life-changing for me. It completely changed my world. I ended up going through a few different lifetimes and seeing what I'd carried forward with me out of not being able to trust myself, not being able to feel like I never felt whole. Like I spent a lot of my life feeling like I just wasn't who I was meant to be. Like I showed up for the wrong audition for the play and I just, I was just winging it. And yeah, I went through a past life experience where I'd actually had an interaction with the entities that I'd had an interaction with in this lifetime.
No way.
And saw the connection.
You recognized the connection.
Yeah.
Doing it. Yeah.
And he picked up on it as well. And he was like, right, we're going to end this. We're going to end it. And we ended up going through this huge release process. And yeah, it was coming out of that. It was like I had my entire soul. Like I was whole. And it was the first time I ever felt like that. And talking to my spirit guides and everything in such a direct conversation, it was, this is your path. This is where you're meant to go.
Yeah.
This is what is meant for you. And it kind of just snowballed from there.
Yeah.
It was like, you should, start a podcast, and you should, get your certification in QHHT, past life regression. And I did. And he mentored me through that process. And it turned out that the practitioner that I was working with was actually, he was my nephew in a past life.
What?
So,
oh my gosh. What?
Yeah. So it explained why we got along so well.
That's crazy town. Oh my gosh. Wow. That's incredible. Oh my gosh. Okay. So when we're talking about past life regression, and I already in the intro, I've already explained, like, we're going full down the woo path here. So we're going with it. I'm riding the train. Okay. We're talking about past life regression. So first, let me ask you this. Like, are there like, I guess signs is the word I'm looking for. Are there like signs that someone could benefit from like one of these sessions? Like, are there things that show up in someone's life where you're like, okay, you could really benefit from having one of these sessions?
100%. Okay. There's so many inklings that kind of pushed me towards it even. But it really is for anyone and everyone. It's one of those things, like you don't really know where you're going until you know where you've been.
Sure. So how does it show up for people that you work with? Like, are there common things that you see that show up for people with the people that you work with?
A lot of people go through either really traumatic relationships, and they're like, I don't have an understanding of this. There's this connection here. I know it's toxic, but I can't let go. I can't move away. There's something there. There's a lot of things like that point to past life karmic relations, and needing to go back and revisit that and, release it and let go of it so that you're no longer feeling that in your current lifetime. There's so many instances where people also don't know what they're meant to be doing. They feel lost. They feel confused. They feel disconnected, isolated. And you could be in a room full of people and still feel that way. But that's not actually normal. It's not how you're meant to feel.
Right. Yeah. Totally.
But so much of it we carry forward that we don't realize. Self-limiting beliefs, thinking you're not good enough, unworthiness could all relate to past life experiences where, maybe you were, for example, maybe you were a servant in a past life and, you never got the respect or the treatment you deserved.
Right.
And you've gone and carried that into this life thinking, well, I'm not worthy of that. They're better than me. I don't deserve this.
Right.
And you hold yourself back.
Right. Yeah. No, that makes total sense. So do you ever have people, I mean, there has to be some willingness to be open to this kind of thing. But for people who, maybe they're willing, but there's still like kind of some hesitancy on, like, is this for real? Is this legit? Like, how do you work with people like that where it's like they feel like they could benefit from it, but then there's something in their head where they're like, it's their mind's like, this is crazy, right? How do you handle those situations?
I love working with the skeptics.
That's like probably the icing on the cake for you.
Because, when you go and see a psychic or you go and see a medium or whatever, a lot of the time they're telling you how something is, right? They're telling you this is what you are. This is what's happening for you. QHHT and BQH past life regression is not like that at all. It is you are seeing it and experiencing it for yourself. I'm not telling you anything. Like, it's fully your experience.
Yeah.
And I guess that's what really solidifies it for a lot of people is like seeing is believing, right? You experience it. It's like, well, I can't deny that.
Right.
I can't deny that's what happened. I don't know how it happened or why it happened or where it came from, but it happened.
Right.
And that's where a lot of people kind of make that switch.
Yeah.
Their belief system shifts.
Yeah.
And when you think about it from not even like a woo aspect, but from a scientific aspect, our brain has so much potential we don't know about.
Yep, exactly.
And holding on to memories is just, one thing. So if our subconscious mind is holding on to these memories from past lives and are able to bring them forward for you to look at and remember and assess, then, that's totally plausible.
Yeah. Yeah. 100%. Yeah. Well, and, you always hear the things about we only use 2% of our brains or whatever it is. Like, there's clearly a lot of stuff in there that we don't even know what's there. So why couldn't it be true? Yeah. I mean, That makes total sense. So what do people, and you kind of mentioned it a second ago, because you were talking about like limiting beliefs and things like that, but what do you see as what people look like on the other side, right? Like what are benefits sounds like, meh, but you know what I mean? Like the kind of the transformation on the other side, like what are people gaining from these experiences for having these past life regression sessions?
So it's different for everybody, but so many, the common factors are really kind of taking those chains off and really accessing your potential, really accessing, I guess, what you'd call like your destiny, right? Like what you're meant to do.
Right.
And what feels right for you. Some people pick up random talents they didn't know they had.
Oh, that's like, amazing.
You know, maybe they were an artist in a past life and they've never picked up a paintbrush before, but you know, they come back to their current lifetime and they're like, you know what, I'm going to give it a go. I'm going to give it a go.
Crazy. That's so cool.
They're amazing at it.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's things like that. And also understanding their relationships. Like so many people have the same cycles of relationships in different lifetimes, depending on what decisions they make. And if you're reliving the same relationship experience with, you know, a family member or a friend or a partner, you can see kind of what went wrong last time and kind of make a different choice moving forward.
Yeah.
And I think that is a huge learning curve and a huge learning experience to be able to kind of have that, I guess, history of past experiences to then come forward to your current lifetime and go, well, you know what? I'm going to make a different choice this time.
I'm going to do it different this time.
Yeah. We're going to see what the ending's like this time and see how it works out. And it's really, really interesting. But there's also so many people that come out of this with physical healings that are just unexplainable.
Wow. Yeah. Yeah.
I've had one client, she struggled really badly with dermatitis. And it was actually something that related back to a past life experience where she was actually in a house fire. And so she had, you know, burns on her skin. And it relayed back in her current lifetime because she was holding on to that trauma. She was holding on to that experience.
Nuts. Yeah.
That it was showing up physically in her skin.
Right. That's crazy.
When she kind of went back and resaw this experience and these memories and had a understanding of why something was happening, is a lot of the time so much more powerful than, you know, fixing it. Yeah. But in doing that, you know, she was able to fix it. Yeah. Because she went through and understood why it happened, what was taking place. We went through a release process. She let go of that trauma. She dealt with that trauma and it no longer affects her. And now her skin is perfect.
That's nuts.
Nothing.
Yeah. That's incredible. Wow. That's incredible. So when we're talking about spiritual abilities, intuitive abilities, right? There is, and I mentioned this earlier, but there's this intuitive piece that comes into it. And for those listening who, you know, maybe they don't have intuitive abilities, maybe they don't have, you know, a mediumship they're holding, or maybe they do, maybe there's somebody listening who does, who's kind of, you know, holding back on their spiritual gifts. But I am a firm believer that everyone has spiritual gift, and maybe it's not mediumship, but it's something else. But when we're looking at like honing in on our gifts, and there's a trust piece that comes into play. So I guess, do you have any, I mean, I know you have insight, but what can you share to help people kind of tune into that piece and really dive into that self-trust and learning how to trust themselves in that way?
Yeah, definitely. So trust is a big thing. And, you know, we can all kind of go around and say, yeah, I trust myself. But then you question things and you have that little voice of doubt in the back of your mind.
Yep.
And this plays a lot in with, you know, people trying to manifest things. Is, you know, it's they want to have positive thoughts and intentions. And they're like, for example, like, oh, it'd be so great if I won the lotto, right? You know, 20 mil, I got this. And they go, yep, I'm thinking about it. I'm putting it in a positive light. I'm, you know, confident about it. But there's that voice in the back of the head going, is it realistic though?
Right. Exactly.
Like, oh, it would be nice, but what's the chances of that really happening?
Yep.
And it's that little voice that really stops us trusting ourselves because we have that doubt. And what I like to explain this as is your conscious mind and your subconscious mind working against each other. They're at war because your subconscious mind, it comes from a place of love. It wants to protect us. It wants to protect us from, you know, feeling disappointment or rejection or fear. So it goes, no. That's probably not the best idea. Like, oh, we don't want you to be disappointed if it doesn't work out that way. It's trying to prepare you for the worst case scenario. But our conscious mind is like, no, I got this. Like, I know what's good for me. Just let me deal with it. But they can't agree. So it's a constant fight. It's a constant internal war with yourself of, can I do this? Can I not do this? Is this right? I don't know. Maybe I shouldn't. Maybe I should. And it's just constant questioning and doubting. So a huge way to kind of fix that problem or take steps to fix that problem is getting them to work together, right? You want them to be on side. You want your conscious mind to be like, hey, look, it's okay. I know what's best for me. I appreciate what you're trying to do, but I've got this. You can take a seat. And so one of the good ways to really do this, and I channeled this through a couple of weeks ago, the spirits had an awesome metaphor of explaining it. But it's like if you find a stray cat or a dog, depending on your preference, if you find a stray cat or a dog, when you go up to it and you try to rehabilitate it, you go up to it from a sense of like, you're safe, we're here to help. You go from a nurturing aspect. You want to approach your subconscious in the same way. You want to come at it from a nurturing perspective, like, hey, it's okay, we're safe. I'm safe. This is okay. And taking those steps to rehabilitate and build trust by connecting with yourself on those physical, emotional, mental, and spiritual elements. So if your body doesn't trust you, how is your mind going to trust you? If your mind doesn't trust you, how can you trust your emotions? If you can't trust your emotions, how can you trust what's going on in your external reality? Like, it all kind of plays in together. So even just taking steps to connect with yourself on a physical level is huge, because when people think about, I want to better myself, they tend to go one or two ways, right? They go, I'm going to better myself. I'm going to go to the gym for 8 hours every day and not worry about the rest of myself. And then other people are like, oh, I'm going to, do the meditations and I'm going to do the affirmations and I'm really going to get myself in a positive headspace. But they forget everything else. Like, we need to be approaching this from a more holistic point of view to really come into that trust. Because once your body can trust you, your mind can trust you. Once your mind can trust you, you can trust your emotions. And when you can trust your emotions, you can start to trust what's happening in your external world and redesign it, recreate it. If it's not something you want, it's not something you like, you can rewrite it. It's really, people really overcomplicate it.
Yeah, for sure.
And
for sure.
That's what we do as humans, right? We want to try and, see the bigger picture, but we're looking at it from a really zoomed in perspective. It's like, hang on, just take a minute, zoom out.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Well, and I think too, we have that constant battle between the body and the mind. Like, our body's telling us one thing and the mind's trying to talk, like you were saying before. And so I think we often, because I know me personally, I mean, that's been a struggle for me, is like being able to distinguish like which voice I'm listening to. Is it my mind, like overanalyzing things, and that's what I'm listening to? Or is it, trying to distinguish, is it the body or the mind? Like, which one am I listening to? Is it the inner voice? Is it my mind trying to act like it knows what it's talking about? So I think that's the hard part too, is really being able to distinguish between those two. But I love that analogy. I have not heard that analogy about the stray dog or the stray cat. Like, that's such a good way to put it. And because I think the other piece too, and I love Marianne Williamson. I don't know if you know Marianne Williamson. I love Marianne Williamson, but she talks a lot about how does she call it? That the ego is like a scavenger dog, and how it's always looking for something, which I get what she's saying. But for me, that also kind of like puts the image of like putting you at odds with your ego, where it's like, if you come at it from a loving place, like you're talking about, it's a totally different approach, coming at it from a loving way, like you would a stray cat or a stray dog, and not like judging it or condemning it, but like, hey, it's okay, we're safe. Like, I think I love that reframe. I think that's a huge reframe for people.
Yeah. Well, I mean, so many people look at the ego as a negative thing.
Totally.
Right?
Yes.
But it's part of the human experience. It's part of why we're here.
Right.
And it's part of what we're meant to learn. So it's coming from a place of love. Our ego wants to protect us. It wants to do what's best for us. It just doesn't really understand what that is.
Right.
And when it can learn to work, conscious and subconsciously together from a place of love, from a place of nurturing, that's where trust can really take shape.
Yeah, no, it's so true. It's so true. And I think it's like a muscle that you kind of have to work, right? Just like anything else, like you have to kind of practice. And I think that's for me. I've worked with, I don't know if you've ever had like an inner voice session before. I've worked with an inner voice practitioner a few times, and it's like, it's basically like helping you to distinguish between the two, because it takes practice and being able to distinguish, like, is it the inner voice or your intuition, whatever you want to call that voice, or is it the ego? So it takes practice too. And like giving yourself that grace to know that it takes practice to, because especially if you've lived your whole life just listening to the ego, which like, I feel like this kind of ties back to what you were talking about, past life regression, with people who have, but dealt with trauma in this life, or, whatever life dealt with trauma, that I feel like a lot of times they tune out of their body and they only listen to the ego, right? So they don't have the experience in being able to tune into that inner voice or that intuitive piece, right?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. They get on fight or flight mode sort of thing.
Exactly.
It's just trying to survive.
Yeah.
And if all you know how to do is survive, you're not living.
Right.
You're not living your life to your full potential. And you're not living a life of enjoyment because you're constantly stuck in survival mode.
Right.
And you know what? Sometimes you have to. Sometimes you have to be in survival mode to get through it. I totally get that. I went through that being a teenager. Like, just get through it. Just get through it. Just get through today to get through tomorrow, and just keep doing that.
That's right.
But once you kind of stop and you're out of that, I guess, trauma, you then have to try and start processing that trauma. And you can't really process that trauma if you don't trust yourself.
Right.
Like, everything comes back down to trust. If you can trust yourself, you can literally accomplish anything.
I love that. And it's so true. And I think you don't realize like the gravity of that statement you just made until you've really been able to tune into your inner voice, because I feel like myself in my own journey, that's been a huge thing, and not realizing how much is possible when you're able to step into that intuitive piece and like listening to your intuition or inner voice or whatever. And I mean, that's huge, because you're right. I mean, it opens up a world of possibilities when you're able to tune into what that inner voice is telling you, that intuition is telling you. Yeah. I love that. I love that. That's so good. And I think, well, first of all, you've brought so many nuggets here, because I think harnessing, whether it's an intuitive ability or whether it's just, whatever goals or whatever, I mean, you limit yourself. I feel like you limit yourself so much when you don't put into practice, like tuning in to the inner voice, to the intuition, right? Like how much you're limiting yourself by, because really and truly, when you're living by the ego, you're essentially living by fear, right? I mean, that's kind of the voice of the ego, is fear. And so I feel like you being able to, helping us understand your journey, and because you lived in that fear state for so long, and then knowing what it looked like to flip that on its head. I mean, that's huge, and allowing people to see what's possible. So yeah, thank you for sharing that piece first and foremost, and allowing us to. So do you have, before we wrap up, I feel like I have a bunch of other questions that are not relevant to this at all, just about the mediumship, because I'm just so fascinated by it.
Yeah.
But like, so when you are, how do I ask this question? Are you one of those? Because I know, and only because I've seen things on TV, and I don't have that much experience with like in-person things, and you never know when you're watching on TV, what's real and what's not. But so when you have these abilities, this intuitive ability, so are you able to, do you find it difficult to like turn that off? I guess is my question. Like, do you have like an on and off switch where you're like, block it out? Like, cause I know when we watch, Tyler, is it Tyler? What's his name? He had the Netflix special, but he would say he'd like be in the grocery store and he could like see things, and he like couldn't turn it off, and it was exhausting for him. So do you have like a on off switch where you're like, I'll turn it off?
I do now.
Okay.
But I never used to. And you know what? Tyler is 100% right, because it gets so exhausting.
I imagine so.
And
totally.
That's the problem, is like, as a human, and your body can only tolerate so much.
Yeah.
And if you're taking in such huge amounts of energy and not maintaining your own energy, you're gonna burn out. You're gonna fall on your face.
Yeah.
And that has happened to me many times.
I'm sure. And not knowing how to harness that.
Yeah. And it does get really overwhelming. But you know what? It has taken me a few years to kind of hone in to being able to switch it off. And, there are times where things will push through and you go, well, that's just kind of leaked through the gaps, but that's okay. And, but it is really, there is a huge element of self-care, a huge element to be able to process such high vibrational energy and still maintain human function.
Your own. Yeah, totally. Yes. Function as it. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, that's a lot. Did you ever feel, I mean, I know you said when you were, struggling to accept and you had the attachment and all that, but I mean, since you've kind of come into your own and being able to harness this in a positive way, are you able to feel 100% of the time, like, accepting your gift, being grateful for the gift? Do you ever have times where you're like, that either like bitterness or resentment or anything comes up for the gift, or do you accept it, something that you just accept now? Like, this is the gift I have.
That's a really good question. I think there are times where I get frustrated with it, but I don't think it's necessarily resentment or bitterness as such. I think it's like, oh, this is really inconvenient.
Turn it off.
But there is this huge, just, I think once you accept it, it's kind of getting to that place where I trust myself.
Right. It all goes back to
that. I accepted it. It was a huge shift. But, that's not to say that I'm not still learning, because new things happen all the time. Like, I have always been up until recently, I was always what would you call it? A blended channeler. So I would speak to spirits or high vibrational entities and communicate what they're saying to you and act as a translator. But just recently, and I mean really recently, I've started opening my connection more to allow them to come in and use me as a voice. So that's new. And, that's something that I'm still learning. And, when I channeled for the first time and actually let them use me, it was really strange because I had an accent that I, don't have. And
that's bizarre.
And it was really strange, but it was one of my main spirit guides. So I felt safe and I felt, like I trusted and could let that unfold. But it's something that, I'm still figuring out. I'm still learning. I'm still working about. So there's definitely, there's moments where you go, this is crap.
Yeah.
I don't want to do this anymore. It's hard.
I totally get that. No, I totally get that. Do you have any like last bits of, I don't know, advice or just anything for those who are either struggling to tune into their intuition, or maybe they're in a similar boat as you. And again, maybe it's a different gift or whatever, but just having trouble kind of trusting themselves and using their gifts that they know they have. Do you have any last bits to share with those?
Yeah, I guess what's coming up for me right now is like, people often say, we've got 5 senses. We've got hearing, smelling, seeing, touching. But what about your intuition? Because it's a sense. And it's a sense that you should be taking advantage of. And it's a sense that's really powerful. Like, you think about how powerful it is to touch something and feel love and joy, or to hear music that sets your heart on fire. Like, it's such a powerful moment. Using your intuition is exactly the same. It's so powerful. And when you can actually trust yourself to explore it and start working on it, a whole new world opens up. And everything you thought was impossible becomes possible. Not necessarily probable, but it opens the door.
Yeah,
for sure. And it has shifted my life completely upside down when I went through my past life experience and I felt like I got my soul back in its entirety and was able to really understand what it meant to trust myself and understand my level of, I guess, inner power. It was huge. I went to work, I quit my job. I got rid of toxic relationships in my life. I asserted boundaries. I really changed. You guys use pounds, right? I don't know what the pounds is, but I lost 20 kilograms in 2 months.
That sounds like a lot.
It is a lot. It is a lot. But I lost 20 kilograms in 2 months because I wasn't carrying around this trauma. I didn't need all this extra weight around me to, I guess, protect myself subconsciously. But it's just a whole game changer. Like it really is. Like my whole life changed so quickly.
Yeah.
And it is really amazing. It is really amazing. And I've seen other people do the same. I've seen other people just completely shift their perspective, shift their life, start actually redesigning it and going, you know what, this isn't the life that I want. I'm going to make it the life that I do want. And being able to trust their intuition and connect with their intuition is like the first stepping stone of what got them there.
Yeah, that's amazing. That's incredible. So I do have one last question. I want to ask you a question that I always like to finish with. But before I do that, can you just let everybody know where the best place is to find out more about you and everything you're doing as the amazing spiritual practitioner that you are?
Oh, thank you. Yes. So I am easily accessible on Instagram. You can find me at Elle.Embers or my website, elleembers.com. I do past life regression in person and virtually all over the world. I do channeling all over the world as well, in person and virtually. And I do energetic coaching virtually to help you connect with your intuition and help your conscious mind and subconscious mind learn to work together. So that's really, really cool. And I have a podcast, which is Cosmic Curiosities.
Perfect. All right. So y'all check that out. And we're doing, I don't remember now at this point when we're doing it, but we're doing an episode. Elle and I are doing another for her podcast. So y'all go check out her podcast, go subscribe to hers as well. So the last question I want to ask you is, what do you think is the most important thing you can do to live with purpose?
Ooh, that's a big one. Okay. Let me think about this. I guess for me, what's coming up for right now to live with purpose is to really make your decisions with discernment. Like make sure that you are confident in what you're doing. If you don't believe in something, if like today, if this doesn't resonate with you, if you don't believe in it, that's totally fine. Take it or leave it. But make a decision that feels right. Connect with your intuition. Because when you connect with your intuition, you'll know that that decision feels right because you won't be able to think of anything else. So I think, making purposeful decisions and really connecting with yourself is a huge way to do that.
Yeah, I love it. I agree 100%. Thank you so much, Elle. This was so awesome. I could talk about this for hours, but we'll spare everyone the rest of our woo conversation. But thank you so much for sharing your story and being so open with your story and giving so much. I mean, there's so many nuggets here for people to take away to tune into their intuition and help the subconscious and conscious minds. I love how you said that, what you do, help them work together. So thank you so much for sharing all of this.
Yeah, no worries. Thanks for having me. It was great.
Thanks for listening to Hopeful and Wholesome, y'all. If you found value in this week's episode, please subscribe on iTunes or wherever you get your podcasts and leave a review to let me know what you thought. I love to know what you find useful in these episodes so I know how I can provide the most value I can to my listeners. And if you have topics that you want to know more about, I'd love to hear those as well. So shoot me a message on Instagram, Facebook, or LinkedIn. It's at @TheHopePedraza or visit my website, hopefulandwholesome.com. Thanks, y'all.